of course, by flying into Nairobi. And this, actually, the picture you're looking at right now, that's the inside of the aircraft. This is an aircraft that's been purpose-built for Sky Safaris. It's all luxury interior. It's just amazing. And you'll find, arriving at Nairobi International Airport, Sky Safari will have somebody there to meet you and transfer you to your first hotel, a night at the Hemingways Nairobi, which is a 5-star luxury property. It's so regal. When you first arrive here, you'll pull up and you'll step inside these marble floors, this lovely stairwell that kind of takes you up to the second tier. The second tier is where you'll have the bar. There's a wonderful bar area. In fact, this is where we sat down with Mia, who was with us. Mia is the GM from Sky Safari, and we went through the documents and what we were doing over the next few days. I should point out, when your clients sign up for a Sky Safari, they will contact you and your clients with regards to dietary considerations, regards to what sort of gin they prefer, what sort of champagne they prefer, any drinks that they have a preference for. They will organise and make sure that along the course of that journey, there will be those beverages in place. So if you like Amarula with your coffee in the morning, they'll make sure there's a bottle of Amarula every time you sit down to have a coffee. It's pretty impressive. So your first evening is meeting up with the actual host and actually having a chance to run through the itinerary. A meal is served. They've got a number of different areas to dine, beautiful wine room and some wonderful areas out in the balcony, also outside. We actually sat outside. We were there in November. So pointing that out, November, of course, is part of that season. And so the experience that I had is basically promoting exactly the time frame that this offer is available as well. The rooms here are just fabulous. This is actually one of the rooms, and you can see the lovely 4-poster bed. Each room has itself is dedicated to an historic figure. I actually stayed in Hemingway's suite when I was there, which is kind of nice, but each room is just well appointed. So you'll have a chance to settle in, and then for those that wish, you can go and do an optional tours going to Giraffe Center. The big improvement they've made here to the Giraffe Center is they've created a walkway that now takes you up for lofty views. You can get right up close and personal with the giraffe. I've got to say, it's now so good that when clients say to you about staying at Giraffe Manor, which is often overpriced and never available, you can basically sell with confidence the fact that the same giraffes that are seen at Giraffe Manor are here at the Giraffe Center, and the new look of this center is second to none. It really is a great spot to get your selfies. Another thing we like to do is get to Karen Blixen Museum. Karen Blixen, of course, was the author of Out of Africa, and to actually go into her home and stand on the porch there looking out towards the Ngong Hills where she sat and wrote her wonderful book Out of Africa is a fabulous opportunity. And it's just, I think it helps set the scene because you are going to have a true out of Africa experience with Sky Safari. Another aspect of coming into Nairobi is to perhaps be somewhat philanthropic and go and visit Kazuri Bead Factory. Here the beads are made by single mothers who perhaps have sought employ, and they're actually working here creating these wonderful beads which are highly prized and are sold right throughout the world. And Harrods of London, for example, has them. Yes, they do some marvellous beadwork. So you can come in here and have a chat to the ladies in the factory and then go out and purchase some. Another option is to go and visit the Sheldrick Elephant Orphanage. Highly recommended. This is now back open again, and we can be organised for your groups. A very special experience, something we can do with you. We can actually make it a bit of a surprise if you like, because coming here and getting up close to these little Ellies is just a delightful experience. In fact, you can, even as a group, you could do a sponsorship of a little baby Ellie, where they'll send you a certificate and they'll give you updates on the Ellie's progress, because eventually they actually release these Ellies back out into the wild, which is a reason why Africa Answers is so enamored with the idea of actually supporting the Sheldrick Foundation. So then we head back to Hemingways and, of course, a lovely restful evening sleep after a nice meal, and then next morning up You can sit outside and have breakfast outside, and it's from here we're transferred to the airport. Now, you'll be departing from the Wilson Airport, but not from the commercial airport section. You've got our own private hangar. Our own private hangar. You'll have no people to kind of pass through. The whole nature of the flight is all looked after. Soft-sided bags are a must when you're going on a SkySafari, or for that matter, any safari. You really should have clients with soft-sided bags because they'll pack into these little planes well. On board the plane, it's an 8-seater Cessna Caravan, a true business class type seats you can see here. It's an 8-seater with a 9th seat. This is up the front with a pilot. Now, let me tell you, that 9th seat, while you might think that's going to be your seat, your clients will want to share that seat, don't you worry, because it's fun to be able to sit up with a pilot, especially who's a little cute. You can sit up there and have a chat to the pilot and have your own out-of-Africa experience as you're flying over the plains of the Masai Mara or heading across the Rift Valley. I mean, it is truly magic. Now, the pilot is yours. He's your private pilot. And so en route, you'll pull your map out there and you'll have it open. Your pilot will stop at some point. He'll turn his head around and put the thing on autopilot, and he'll be talking to you about what you're passing. There's Mount Kenya to the right, and there's the Rift Valley and so on. So it really is like an airborne safari. And plenty of room. You'll have champagne served before takeoff, so you'll actually have a little champagne in hand. And then, yes, our pilot, his name was Brian. Brian, marvellous guy, great backstory too. And Brian, actually, his father used to work at the airport, and he used to go to the airport and see these very smartly dressed pilots, and that led him to this career of becoming a pilot. I kind of like the nature of what we do as in travel, because a lot of the people that we meet along the way are often influenced by what we do. In this case, Brian was influenced by his dad going to work at the airport, and he became a pilot. Lovely man. We actually spent some time on safari with Brian. This is looking at that big red is actually Mount Kilimanjaro, because our first journey was flying down to Amboseli National Park. Now, to drive there, that's like a 4.5-hour drive. We saved of that 3.5 hours because it's typically a 45-minute flight. So it's actually the advantage of flying just means that you've got more time. In fact, when we arrived here, we actually had a chance to go out on safari. What was kind of a surprise after that flight, we were greeted as a whole local school was in, and they came in to say hello. That's Ali and myself there. The school came in to say hello. The kids were just wonderful. I talk about how they had a chance to see Pilot Brian, and they got a look at the plane. They kind of came out and greeted us. It's interesting the impact we have when we come to a place like this, because you never know, these young minds here are kind of drawn to the idea of flight themselves, or perhaps safari, and they might get involved in local business. In fact, the property we're staying at has got a great association with the actual school here. The Eliwana guide, Jonathan, he was here to greet us. He handed me a little Tusker, a cleansing ale. And I had a chance to toast Brian's flying expertise. I mean, he actually flew over the lakes here and had a chance to see all the wildlife. You can see the elephants from the air. That's the beautiful thing about your own private plane. You can do what you like. In fact, on some of the days, we might be actually spotting wildlife, and we could be a little bit late. It didn't matter. It's our own pilot, it's our own plane, and we're basically keeping close to schedule, but it doesn't matter being a few minutes late here or there. So every place we stop, though, you see a little table out the front of the vehicle that was set up. So we had a little welcome cocktail as well. And then we boarded our vehicle and headed off for a little safari. We actually go through the Amboseli Game Reserve first, because the Tortillas camp is actually on its own private conservancy that backs up against the actual Amboseli. So the wildlife is free to roam through both. And that's the beautiful thing about these conservancies. They've really doubled the size of these conservancies, these nature areas for wildlife. And so there's actually now more wildlife in the conservancies than there is in actual national parks. How's that for a number? Quite incredible. And this morning game drive was a lot of fun, with views of Mount Kilimanjaro, and of course the Tortillas camp was just impressive. When we first arrived, this is the actual camp itself. That's the bar area. And just through the other side, looking further ahead, you can see that's the dining and restaurant, and for breakfast and dinner in the evenings. Yes, a wonderful setup. stone floors and high thatched ceilings, and that's the view from the camp. The pool area is quite divine as well, and a little pool bar, so you can meet up here in the evening. So during the day, when you're between safaris, you can kind of come back and relax by the pool. The camp itself, though, is just beautiful. The rooms, quite impressive as well. Now, that's a tent. That's a tent with a beautiful thatched roof over the top, a raised floor. You can see here inside, yes, you've got your chest at the end. They put a chest in there, so if you've got any food or whatever, you can put in that chest, because monkeys might, they're pretty clever. You've got to be very careful not to leave anything open, because they might come inside. But you've got timbered floors and lovely carpets there. It's wonderful inside. The back end, of course, is your bathroom area. So it's an ensuite. And we had a resident little Dick that was kind of our little mascot for our room. He was there every morning, it's like Bambi on steroids, just gorgeous. And the water hole is at the base, which was kind of where all the wildlife will come in. Ellies will come in here in the morning, and you're looking back up. On the left-hand side is the restaurant, on the right-hand side is the bar. And dinner in the evenings, all the meals are included. That's our pilot, Brian. He's a bit of fun. So we kind of went out on safaris with Brian, and we enjoyed the evening with him as well. So our day 3, we actually went out to kind of spot some wildlife, elephants with Kilimanjaro in the background. These are all photographs that we took while we were traveling. And we also caught up with a lioness and 2 male lions. She was not sharing. That's a male sitting next to her there. She was kind of looking after herself. And it was quite an interesting scene. We kind of transpired. We then, out of nowhere, they surprised us with a bush breakfast. So rather than going back having breakfast, there we are, a fabulous meal cooked outside. They've got pancakes. You basically pick up you put in your order, you take your little stone, and you sit down. They've got juices. There's that amarula. That's that liqueur. It's a bit like an Irish liqueur. So it's an Irish coffee liqueur that you could put in your coffee, and that was my coffee every day. And that's Mia, the GM of SkySafari, and Ali there having breakfast out there under a beautiful tree. And a loo with a view. Yes, there was a spot that was selected. It had been well scouted, very safe, but it was kind of out there under this beautiful big blue sky. I mean, the nature of the landscape is, it's so open and blue, and it's just incredible. And after a day, after that morning there, we came back. And between the game drive, you get a chance to relax. You can go and, lay back here, or go and read a book. You can perhaps, go for a little massage, like a complimentary massage. The other element too is, through the course of the journey, lots of little value adds are included. And we can work with you to make sure they're complimentary, like your massages, and you can also incorporate that. They've got the pool area as well. We, on day 3, decided to do a little bit of a bushwalk, and this is late in the afternoon. We went for a wander and took us out under the guide. A Masai guide took us for a bit of a bushwalk, and we spotted wildlife, and then went up to the top of this hill to watch the sun, for sundowners, to watch the sunset. And as we're savouring some cocktails and some nibbles, they put a full bar out there for us. We were greeted by some Masai dancing. So they brought in some dancers from the local community, and it was just fabulous, a fabulous finish to a wonderful day. And I've got to say, Ben, who's the Masai who actually organised them, I had a good chat with him, because we went for a walk, and he was talking to me about how he's killed 3 lions, and it's not something they do anymore now, but it was part of, he needed to do so to kind of to actually attract his bride. So it's fascinating. These guys are so informative. And Candy and Graham, who are running the property themselves, are from Scotland, and they're lovely folk, and they're really well respected by the locals. In fact, they do a lot of, as I mentioned, philanthropic work with the local community. So that's what I enjoy about tourism, the fact that we're giving back, and it creates employ for the local people. This then was our transfer to the airport. And I'm going to say, this transfer, I've never seen such a day of more active wildlife. And I'm only showing you a few photographs, but this one here, you're looking in the foreground at pelicans that are actually snapping up fish. We actually sat there watching them. Some of these fish were huge, and they're kind of in a frenzy. They're catching fish. They're all kind of using their bills as nets. The Ellies, of course, took into the river as well. It was just fun watching those. You realise that this Amboseli National Park, for 26 years they haven't had twin ellies, but they've got twin ellies right now. We got a chance to meet them while we were here. So if you've got clients going down here, there's lots of unique things that are happening right now in Kenya. We spotted this hyena en route to the airport, and also this Masai Ostrich, which the Masai Ostrich are more pink, and the Somali Ostrich are blue, and I'll talk to you more about where they're found. Then we boarded our Caravan, our 8-seater. We had different spots. I actually sat back here with Ali. We've got a nice little seat here, and we're looking. That's the pilot behind us. We're looking forward. It's just a great seat. I mean, the chance to there's not a bad seat in the whole plane, quite frankly. And as I mentioned, you've got time here to kind of take in. We were flying now for 75 minutes, flying up to Laikipia County, up to Loisaba Conservancy. And that 75-minute flight, if you were to do that by road, would take a whole day. I mean, it would take 14 hours to drive. So it's not something you would even do. You wouldn't even suggest that to clients. In fact, if they were going to be driving, they would have to stop somewhere along the way. So there'd be a cost of accommodation. There'd be a cost of all that road travel. And here you are, 75 minutes, and you're arriving at this. And as you're traveling too, don't forget, you've got this pilot on board who's giving you great insights. He's explaining the countryside below. And Brian was just marvelous. We missed him. He was such a good guy to travel with. We got a little photograph there. But what was interesting about Loisaba, have a look at the map on the left-hand side. You can see Africa and the yellow, which is Kenya. And you can see Kenya, and the white is Laikipia. Laikipia is the county. And then in the Laikipia County, you can see that little yellow, and that's the Loisaba. Now, what's incredible is the size of this area. Do you realize that 8% of Kenya is covered by national park, and now about 11% is covered by private conservancies. So these private conservancies are growing, and they're growing through the support of travel advisors like yourself who are promoting safaris to Kenya. And these basically provide safe haven for wildlife. And Loisaba currently has the only black leopard seen or even captured on film for 50 years. There's a black leopard here. Now, we were kind of keen to see the black leopard, so we spent a lot of time out there on safari. But it's just amazing. This is 57,000 acres of private wildlife conservancy with an amazing array of wildlife. And it's the Ewaso Nyiro River, which is kind of meanders through, kind of forms the backbone of this between here and Samburu Wildlife Park. Benson Guitar was our guide, and Benson was just a delightful guy. It's incredible what he imparted as we're driving along these dusty roads, looking at wildlife en route. He was telling us all sorts of stories and all sorts of information, because a lot of the wildlife we're seeing here too is endemic to this region. You'll see, for example, vulturine guinea fowl. You'll see more here than you will see elsewhere. Reticulated giraffe are found in this region as well. You won't see reticulated giraffe down in the Masai Mara or down in Amboseli, but you'll see them here. So we were fortunate to have such a great guide who was spending good time, savanna elephants as well. We then, that first night, we stayed at the Loisaba Starbeds. And this is the team for the Starbeds that looked after us. And these Starbeds are amazing. The actual main dining area, which is looking at right now, overlooks a waterhole to the right, and then just over the balcony there, you step down into the main lounge area. So this is the main complex. This is the star bed. This is one of our beds walking in. That's the back of the bed there. It's actually on a chassis with it's actually once a Land Rover chassis. So you've got wheels. That's our little wardrobe you see there. You can see it's built into the side of rocks. It's actually up on stilts on the side of the hill. It's really well positioned. Our bathroom is part stone. As you can see, stone also, they've kind of created a nice sink area bath. You've got beautiful views. When you're having a shower, it's kind of open to the outside, so you kind of got these fabulous views all the way down. You can take your binoculars in the shower with you so you can spot wildlife. This is your bed. It's on wheels, like I mentioned, and currently, as you can see here, it's back underneath that lovely timbered top, that lovely thatched top. But it's on wheels, and what they'll do is they'll wheel it out onto this deck, so you've got these fabulous views, and you'll be under the stars at night. It's truly an amazing experience. So we then After throwing our luggage in there, we had a fabulous lunch. Then we went out to spot that black leopard. Now, we saw a couple of normal leopards, which is amazing in itself, because I can tell you, it took me 15 years before I saw my first leopard after doing many, many safaris. And here we saw so many. We saw a mum and a daughter, and it was just fabulous. Mum was teaching the daughter how to hunt, and then private sundowners, of course, to finish off that day in a lovely, spectacular spot. We stopped for sundowners and then back for pre-dinner drinks around the fire. We met up with another couple, happened to be Australians that were living in Nairobi, and we got to chat to them. We then moved up for dinner. They set up a nice table for us, and a candlelit dinner, fabulous. We were greeted or met up with a Jeanette cat. This little cat came in and just trying to lick the plates and whatever. And then after a lovely dinner, we went to our room. Now, the bed then was pushed out. They had lanterns set up, as you can see here. So we're completely outside. We've got the sounds of the bush. You could hear elephants trumpeting. You could hear the lion roar. It's like a really deep roar. It nearly rattles your bones. It was just phenomenal. And next morning, after a wonderful night's sleep, woke up, they bring coffee. That's the other element too. Coffee in the morning. You just organise your coffee and they bring it to your room. And then so we hopped back in bed. They call them bush babies. It's basically a little hot water bottle. It's got a nice fur coat. When you get into bed, they've got one of those in there, so it's nice, and you're snug as a bug in a rug, let me tell you. And to watch the sunrise, having a coffee, hearing the sounds of the bush as it wakes up, it is truly an amazing experience, and one that you remember for the rest of your life. This was a real highlight. Yes, the Lower Saba Starbeds. Now, typically, this will be upgraded, because what they do is they'll have you staying perhaps in a Lower Saba tented camp, and I'll tell you more about that. But let's have a quick look at the game drive here. The game drive, you'll see greater Kudu, which are found through here more so. You'll also see, and I wanted to show you this picture because apart from the reticulated giraffe, you've also got the common giraffe, which is on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, you've got the common zebra rather, and on the left-hand side, you've got gravy zebra. Now, the gravy zebra, you can see it's got a white belly, and it's got thinner lines. It's more refined, and it's only found in this area, so it's another reason why. As to the Genaque. Genaque's like a cross between a giraffe and an antelope, and it's got a very long, slender neck and very long, slender legs. They actually stand on their hind legs to reach up to some of the trees to get leaves. The Beisa Oryx also found through this area as well, as too is the Somali Ostrich. And I mentioned before that the Masai Ostrich is more pink, and as you can see, this one's a little more blue, only found in this region as well. So the morning game drive, we caught up with another leopard. We still couldn't find our black leopard, but let me tell you, it was so much fun. We sat and watched this young male leopard and watched him hunt. And what was incredible, there was three of us there just focused on this leopard, or four including our guide. And at one point, we thought we saw he went, and he completely vanished. I mean, they're just so elusive. He slipped away. Well, at that point there, we thought it was time to head back. We're not unsure of where we're going, and all of a sudden we turn a corner, and they've got this fabulous bush breakfast. Another one of these surprise bush breakfasts laid out there. It's just a marvelous way to kind of toast a magic day. That afternoon, we then went for camel rides. We actually caught up with some Samburu guides, and they took us on this wonderful camel ride. The camels themselves are great for a group. So if you've got a little group of people, no matter what their fitness levels are, camels are very, quite comfortable. The saddles were great. Everybody remarked on how comfortable they were, and it puts you up above everything, so you can actually see. You can see giraffe, you can see zebra, and you're having this wonderful guided experience. It's a lot of fun. You can also go horseback riding, and some of us did that. And horses, again, provide, when you're on a horse, the wildlife doesn't seem to be as concerned by these humans, so you get a chance to get up close to the wildlife. We met up with the Anti-Poaching group. Now, the Anti-Poaching, this is one of the conservancies that actually invests a lot of their money. They pour it back into anti-poaching. And because of the work they've done in making this a safe haven for wildlife, they're now introducing rhino here. So the beautiful thing about this whole process of conserving is that it's providing access to more wildlife experiences. They also I did go on the last trip I was here. I went mountain biking, which is a lot of fun, and you can go and visit a local village. So there's lots of activity you can do aside from just the safari. The sundowners in the evening, of course, are a standard part of every day. And yes, nothing like toasting around a fire. And then I wanted to show you what the tented camp is like. This is what you would normally stay in. To me, this tented camp sits up on a ridge with beautiful views out over. You've got a waterhole below. That's the main restaurant and bar area with a swimming pool. And so it's a great lofty look out over the 57,000 acres. So it's a great spot to stay. And that's the bar area. It kind of just folds out nicely onto the deck. It really is amazing. Dinner in the evening, a superb lookout. Your room is also a tent, but it's hardly roughing it. I mean, luxurious, really. Ensuite shower. It's just so well at writing desk, a little bar in there as well, complimentary beverage. It's all there for you. So that's the thing too. All your meals, all your beverages are included. They did in this occasion, because they were doing some work to the actual tented camp, they upgraded us. Without any extra cost, we went to stay at the Lower Saba Lodo Springs. Now, the Lodo Springs is pretty impressive. This is the main restaurant area, the lounge area, which kind of steps outside. So you've got great views. Again, there's a water hole, as you can see here on the left, and over here there's actually a soak they refer to. It's a very green area. A lot of wildlife kind of comes in here. But yeah, this is fabulous views. You can spend your whole day. Safari can happen right here. In fact, you can even climb in this pool with binoculars, and you can sit there. It's a lovely horizon pool, fabulous views out over the plains below. And your room, well, this is what the rooms look like. I've never seen anything quite as large. It's been voted one of the best resorts in all of Africa. The actual glass, you see, it's a glass frame around the outside. It's a canvas top and a timbered floor. The bedroom area, as you can see, gives this fabulous 180-degree view from lying in bed. Just magic. And then the bathroom is like nothing I've ever seen before. You're looking into the mirror right now, double sinks, and you can see in the mirror, you can see that shower in the reflection in the mirror. You turn around and that's the shower area. So it's very open shower. It is an incredible bathroom area. So luxury personified, coffee being brought to your room as part of your wake-up call. It's a magic place to stay. An afternoon massage, of course, was included, complimentary, so you can have a little massage. After bouncing around in a four-wheel drive, I think it's not a bad way to go. And then, of course, the game drives here. Each one of these camps is in a different part of these 57,000 acres. So you've got different areas to kind of take in the amazing wildlife that's found up here in this wonderful conservancy. So our final little sundowners, and we're saying goodbye now. And then next morning, day 6, we're loading luggage and we're heading to the airport. Again, the airport trip is in itself another safari drive. We get a chance to say farewell to our friends, and I got to say it was just amazing. The experience was just phenomenal. We boarded our flight. A new pilot. Our pilot was Henry was a real champion. It was quite the character. And Sandy was her turn to sit up the front, and she was very happy to do that. Sandy and the pilot were having a good old chat en route. And it was a great experience. Ali and I were sitting up behind this time. We were right behind them, so we had the chance to change seats and sipping on our champagne as we took off for our 75-minute flight to the Masai Mara. At one point, we're flying over the Rift Valley. Our pilot, Henry, is kind of giving instruction, telling us to look outside the window, pointing out various aspects, like Nakuru, for example. And then we come into the Masai Mara, which we landed at Kirok Airport, which is a dirt air landing strip. You can see here an example of the bins, why you need soft-sided bags, because you're basically going to these confined spaces, so your bags have got to pack in nice and tight. Of course, we were welcomed with beverages. I took a little Tusker with me for the ride. A Tusker, of course, is the Kenyan beer, and it has the big Tuskers on the front. We actually got had a chance to actually enjoy a beverage while we caught up with a few Tuskers en route. And we saw big eland, which is like the largest of the antelopes found in Africa. Cape buffalo, this old duiker. Hartebeest, the horns there shaped like a heart. And then we moved into the Sand River. Now, the Sand River, typically it's a dry river, the Sand River, but we had water through here. In fact, there was so much water that the wildebeest, which normally cross the Mara River and they're heading down into Tanzania, they actually turned around and came back. So we got a chance to see quite a number of wildebeest. The Great Migration was still here, and we were traveling in November. Now remember that offer from the 1st of October to December the 18th. You could still be seeing the migration at this great deal. Now, Nicolene and was a wonderful hostess, as too was Andrew, and they put together a great package of activity for us. Just classy people. They're from South Africa originally. He's actually an avid photographer. So when you're organising special groups or special interest groups, it's people like that kind of really do add a real strength of understanding. I mean, he was just wonderful when it came to helping us, assisting us with regards to taking great photographs. This is our room. On the right-hand side is actually, you're walking into the lounge area, and you've got a nice little chest there and a big leather lounge. To the left-hand side, you can see the back of the chair there. You've actually got this writing desk. So you can, it feels like it's something out of Africa. There's a little radio that you can use. When we were coming back to the camp in the evening, we actually had a whole herd of ellies that would come marching past. So we had to stop, and we were with a Masai guide, and we had to wait for the ellies to make their way through because, of course, they're going down to the water. The bed itself is a double bed, of course, a king bed, but it can be split to have a couple of twin beds. So if clients are travelling as in separate, then they can do so. You've got your bathroom area with a lovely big bath and enamel bath, and the actual shower is outside. So that's kind of a nice experience. I could actually stand outside and I could see wildlife while I was having a shower. Just amazing. So that's looking back towards the bedroom. Every camp had a different feel to it, but every camp was in itself a real highlight. And I think that's a difficult thing when you're putting together an itinerary, is you want every day to be just getting better. Well, it just happened to be like that. That's the beautiful thing about SkySafari. Their accommodation selection is superb. And so are the dining areas. That's Ali and Mia. They're having a little bit of a meal there for lunch. Then off a little afternoon game drive. Now, the game drive took us to see some of that migration that was kind of pushing through. We got a chance to see the wildebeest, and we got a chance to see hippos in the hippopotamus pool. Now, weather-wise, people always say, well, what's the weather going to be like? Well, you never know in Africa. You can get some inclement weather. We were caught with a bit of a shower when we were here, and that was kind of fun. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, memorable moments just happen, and weather really doesn't play a great role in that at all. In fact, it can add to the occasion. As you can see by our faces, we were absolutely having one of those belly laughs that wouldn't stop. In fact, it started because we pulled up next to this other vehicle, and the door opened up, and the gal sitting in the back, she had all this bead work on. She had all the car key gear. She had all these cameras, and it looked like something. She had a crown on, and my wife Alex, I think we just met Karen Blixen. It was just a moment in time, but it was just phenomenal. This lady, of course, had been picking up and not only buying the souvenirs, but wearing them as well. So she looked like some princess from some safari group. I don't know. It was quite amazing. Anyway, we got back to the camp, and a wonderful bar area in there. My gin and tonic was waiting when I arrived, and then we had a chance to sit back and relax and talk amongst ourselves, and then we headed into dinner that night. So the camp itself, as you can see, it's pretty special the way it's laid out. Next morning, they decided to put breakfast outside, so we sat outside. We've got the river behind us. We had bird life coming through, the sounds of the bush. It was magic. Now, on our group, we actually then, on day 7, we actually went off because we wanted to go and check out another camp. So we took off on a safari, so caught up with some lions who were having lunch, and then we left them behind, and we said goodbye to the other part of our group. And that photograph there, this is one area, one day where I wished I actually had a camera, because I was using a lot of these photographs I've taken with my cell phone, little iPhone. But this particular day, that you look through that tree on the other side, in that tree, you can just make it out as a leopard. And that was a beautiful picture. The sun was right on this leopard. And over here is the leopard's, the kill. The leopard's got a gazelle that's kind of up into this tree here. It's dragged it up there. And that's a gorgeous photograph. It's absolutely amazing. We then went and visited a Masai village, which was kind of a special moment. We had a chance to kind of see them singing and dancing and to learn about their lives. And I just love the fact that by being a part of a group like this, where actually helping support these villages, through bringing visitors. We then went and visited the elephant pepper camp. Now, the elephant pepper camp was named after these elephant pepper trees and, of course, the ellies that kind of inhabit the area. And, great grounds. The wildlife basically walks right through the camp. In fact, we had elephants that came right past our little accommodations. The rooms themselves are just divine. This is the main lounge area, and next door to that is the restaurant. And, it's pretty special the way it's all laid out. They kind of pull out all the stops in the evening. You've got a fire set up, sitting outside of their lawns and having a wonderful chat. It's just fabulous. This is actually the family unit or the bridal suite. You can see there it's set up there for a couple right there. So they can do it well. And I just love it makes you feel like something out of Africa. To me, it was just the lanterns are all set up. It's just magic. So this was home, and an amazing home it was for us. We, on day 8, to finish the day, we had a chance then to head out on safari, and a chance to kind of engage in local activities, beautiful bush breakfast right next to the Mara River. That's the Mara River there, so you've got hippos and crocodiles in the Mara River while we're sitting back enjoying a lovely breakfast. And then we're seeing all the local wildlife on a game drive. It's just magic, with final sundowners, and then enjoying a nice little campfire gathering before retiring for the night. Now, next morning, the final safari with our guide Sammy, I actually organised to get up early. I said, we want to kind of have one more safari ride. So off we went. We caught up with this tower of giraffe, or I also refer to a giraffe as a journey. If they're a tower when they're standing together grazing, and they're a journey when they're moving. They call it a journey of giraffe. We got to see white heron and yellow-billed stork, and we got to meet the river pride lions that kind of bid us farewell. It was about the pride of about 9 lionesses, and it was just amazing, and their cubs. It was fabulous. So at this point, we're thinking this is just a fantastic finish to our safari. Then they surprised us. They had a breakfast organised back down by the river, put a long table out like the Last Supper. We sat here, coffee. In fact, at one point there, I've got up to take photographs. We had a little Vivette monkey that came on and stole some food from my plate. But it was a fabulous, all put together by the GM, Adika. He was just an amazing man, and each one of the camps, their GMs are just fabulous, and he himself was once a part of he's been a long-standing member of the SkySafari team, and they did a marvellous job, and he was well represented here, did a fabulous job. We then took our flight to Wilson Airport. They met us at the airport. SkySafari had a transfer organised. Anne was there to greet us and transferred us across to the 4 points at Nairobi Airport. So rather than just be lobbed at the airport, most companies would just leave you at the airport. You actually went to the 4 points, which is very close. They've got their own transferred to the airport. So we could then sit back and relax. We had a nice meal, did some emails, and enjoyed a little coffee before we were transferred to the airport and boarded our flight with Qatar Airways home. I've got to say, Qatar Airways has been a real stellar supporter of East Africa, and it's one that we work very closely with. We flew in all classes with Qatar Airways, and I can honestly suggest that the service was second to none. This happens to be in the business class, where they've actually got these module areas, and you can see us without masks. As long as you've got a glass of wine in hand, then you don't need to be wearing a mask, and so we're enjoying the flight home. So that was the trip itself. Now, what I've done for you guys is I've created a whole Facebook and Instagram campaign. And I'm also going to be setting up a flyer that you'll actually get to use. This is an example of what the flyer will look like. But I'm going to be doing a whole series of these. The SkySafari team is introducing 2 new SkySafaris. They've got their typical 10-day. They're going to now be bringing in also an 8-day, a 7-night, 8-day trip for Kenya, and doing the same with Tanzania as well, doing a 10 and a 7-night, 8-day, and it's going to just provide you another price point. Plus, of course, you've got the 5th tour, which is Kenya and Tanzania. So it really depends on what your clients are seeking to do. But the beautiful thing is that if your clients are interested in traveling between January the 5th to June the 30th, or between October the 1st to December the 18th, they can save themselves 50%, which represents nearly $5,000 saving per couple. And you, as a travel advisor, if you're interested, we can actually work with you to do promotions with you. I'm going to do presentations on each one of these itineraries. I'm going to create a nice little package of promotional elements for you. I'm going to create some Facebook promotional pictures as well, and you could go out there and promote these. All you need to do is get 4 couples, and you could be going to Africa, to Kenya or Tanzania for free. The only cost you'll incur will be the cost of the park fees. So that's the only cost. So with that, I want to open it up to Q&A, questions and answers. If you could type on the right-hand side of your screen any questions you might have for me, and I'll answer them. Let's get going. Let's start with COVID. Here's a question here. What's the status of COVID? Dana, thank you very much for that question. With regards to COVID in Kenya and Tanzania, you'll find that in all the areas we're traveling, COVID is very safe. We're talking, all these camps are very small camps, and they're